All right, boys. Welcome to the Dogcast. We got a special edition today.
Hola,
Going on.
how's it going?
Let's go. Don't get too noisy. I know we talked about talking
Yeah.
over each
Woof,
other,
woof,
but
woof, woof, woof.
but yeah, for the listeners, for the watchers, today we're gonna do a special episode. We got some new
It's
faces. We got
always
some
special.
regular faces, very regular looking face with a regular jersey on over here in Wade.
Talking about Martin.
And then we got a newbie and Chris. So excited
Hey
to bring
everyone.
Chris. He moonlights as a bartender if anybody was curious. So um hit him up for free drinks on the weekends when you need some. But today we're gonna jump through a little bit of a different pod. We're at our midpoint of the season here, just past the midpoint. So wanted to go around and get storylines from everybody. We're gonna talk probably a little bit of trash is gonna come through here. A little bit of probably checking our own selves here and our teams and how we're going, and then make some projections for the rest of the season. But excited to jump into it. Wanted to start out by just kind of recapping. Want to go around for everybody on the call, recapping maybe the most surprising storyline to you at this point in the season, given that we are 4 games down on what you've seen, maybe something that didn't line up with your expectations, maybe somebody that's positively surprising you, but just a storyline of surprise at this point. And I want to start off with our boy Marty, just because I like your insights, Marty, and I'm curious how you've been looking at things. I know you're a pretty analytical mind.
Well, not to pick on you specifically, but I think an interesting storyline is that you guys were off to a really slow start, finally found your bearings, because certainly on paper, I think that was one of the teams that just through, sheer chemistry, obviously Mac having as high of a ceiling as anybody in the group, I think you having as high of a ceiling as as any foreign to the group, like that was surprising to see the struggles early on. And similar vein, I really thought that the Deckers, once Preston came in, were going to be just an absolute force to be reckoned with. Some up and down there, but getting beat handily when they do get beat. So those were actually the two teams that surprised me the most, and then vice versa. Obviously, Joseph team being undefeated, wouldn't have guessed that. I think in hindsight, it's very easy to see Cobra Kai being as good as they are, just because Jeremy is playing lights out. If you have a solid four, that goes a long way. I think everybody would say Kyle is about as good of a three as you're ever going to find. And then obviously Jaden and Rivera being top of their tiers as well. So that one in hindsight makes a lot of sense why they're as dominant as they are. But yeah, certainly a few surprises there on my end, but happy to see how it plays out because I know a lot of, Cobra Kai's been at full strength every single week. And
Yeah.
that's not something that most other teams can say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd piggyback on that, and I think a storyline that's becoming more and more apparent is the sub storyline. And I think we've had like one successful sub, no shots at any of the subs that have come in, but for whatever reason, whether it's the time of day, whether it's the level of play, whether it's just familiarity with people in the group, like this has by far been the least amount of success that I've seen subs have across the board. Chris is smirking. I know he and Junk took a week off last week, and both their teams got smacked with subs in place. But Chris's teams may not have been the subs' fault.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
Whose fault was it, Chris?
Um, who did I would say it definitely wasn't Ron's. He won't accept responsibility.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So we're gonna go with Adam, maybe. I'm
Okay,
not sure.
has to be.
Yeah.
It starts at the top, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It's all on
Shit
Adam.
rolls downhill, man.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
he's got to get his team in line. I don't know what that was. I did tell him in the parking lot that we could have used a sucky performance from them the prior week, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. He giveth and he taketh when he wants. So, but yeah, I will say, I mean, not to blow shade, and I think Ron's an interesting player, right? Obviously, very vocal. Um, it's he's always been one to, and there's a few people that are like this, right? But he's always been one to like some days he's lights out, like can't lose, is drives on. And then there's days where you're like, what? Have you ever played pickleball before? And
Well, he went 6-0 the next day. He went
yeah,
0 and
exactly.
6 and then went 6-0. I was like, you need to do your 6-0s on league, not the 0 and 6s on league. That's not acceptable.
Especially if Duper's not getting uploaded. That,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of respect for Ron, even just his game and how it's improved, right? The top end, there's no doubt that the top end of his game, from where it was a year ago, whatever. And I think that first team he was on, it was like every game that, they lost was his fault. Like it felt like, to now being somebody who, when he's on, right, can win a game, win a head to head for a team. So something interesting to pay attention to. I know Adam said they were going to get in the lab together. They were going to have some chats. So and obviously having you back in the fold, as long as you're not taking any more beer run trips to Iowa with junk, I'm sure you guys will be in decent shape here the rest of the way out.
I'm not, and we will. We're going to dominate from here on out. We do have a sub this week for Ron, so maybe that'll save us this upcoming week. But no, I wanted to answer your previous question though, because I think this person specifically has surprised me. I don't know their record, but I feel like they're just playing so much better than I remember them playing 6 months ago or a year ago. And like that, I think this is their first league, and it's Jeff Pendleton.
Yeah.
He is a force to be reckoned with right now. Like there's shots where I'm like, this is a put away, this is done, and it's coming back at me as a good reset. Like not even like it's barely coming back, it's a good reset, and then the next shot's getting put away on me. Like I did not see that coming, and he I feel like is really. Joseph plays great, Trevor plays great, like that. All of their team is good, but I feel like who is actually like surprising me the most on that team, it's Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, their whole team is probably a case study for just like kind of game stabilizing since league started, right? Like I think, Tony's similar vein, right? Guy that was traditionally always on the bottom court, and now it's, unsurprising if he wins in any match, regardless of who his partner is. Definitely has some tools. But I called Jeff out, I think last week or the week prior on our call with the other two, of just like somebody who I feel like some sneaky consistency coming up and some weapons that he's developing. I think ultimately just like one of the nicest guys. Like you never playing against Jeff and be like, that guy's a jerk. Like Jeff's just a nice guy. And I think that adds to this whole thing of like, it's a part of the, like, it's hard to get amped and mad at Jeff. Like you don't want to like beat him into a pulp. Like you're just like, that's such a nice guy. I don't want to hit him, when I'm hitting an overhead. But yeah, I echo that. Trevor was on my team last season. I've known Trevor forever, and I feel like his game is like, he's always been capable of a 6-0 or, performance. Like he's got skills that nobody can deny, but seeing that like feels like week in and week out, he's 5 wins, 6 wins, 4 is the floor. It feels like for him, in a 2 spot, like that's, I think he's a sneaky top 2 there. Maybe not even that sneaky. There's a lot of really good 2s, but that whole team, yeah, Joseph, somebody who was subbing as a 2 or 3 last season, with intermittent success has been pretty successful as a 1. So yeah, great call out. That whole team has been surprising me, but Jeff is definitely leading the way on just like, I feel like out punting his coverage a little bit or outperforming his expectation for sure. Wade, what about you, man?
I mean, I gotta defend my guy Ron. I feel like he just got dragged under the bus for like the last 3 miles. My goodness. And trust me, I got an earful. I think I was on the golf course. I think he called me at like 7:45 right after his 0-6 to vent about it. We'll keep those venting sessions private, but
we need the insider information, man. You gotta bring that.
Ron's a character. I mean, I think a lot of Ron's game depends on who he's playing with. I think Ron and I, despite, we did lose to Martin and Abrigo, we do play really well together. I would say that Ron and I play better together than Adam and Ron play together. It's just, I think it's a different type of game that Adam and I play, that fits Ron's games better. But I was excited to see his bounce back on 6-0. I don't know if it ever got submitted to Duper, but for his mental sake, hopefully it did. Going to surprises. Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the obvious stuff, really. Kitchen Crashers, when you look at it on paper, even now, I feel like it's just like 4 solid twos, basically. Like Joseph's the captain, he's the one, but I feel like Jeff could, put him in at 2, put him in at 1, get as many wins. Trevor has been on a tear. That's something Ron did mention about how Trevor is just like on a tirade right now and could play a 1. So they're just solid across the board, but I was surprised. I am surprised by their success when I was looking at it preseason. And then you go to Cobra Kai. I think Jaden and Kyle, haven't obviously played together, but that was a lot of new chemistry that was a question mark. But they're all, same thing. Like they basically have Rivera as a 1 and then like 3 people that can fit in as a 2. So, because Jeremy's playing out of his mind. And then, yeah, I mean, Ghost Recon, obviously chemistry is a big thing in pickleball. I think you finally figured it out, but obviously the 0-3 start was a surprise. But yeah, that's kind of it's kind of the obvious. I feel like there's a clear top couple, there's a clear middle couple, and a clear bottom, and we'll see if the second half of the season, if those teams change.
Yeah.
And honestly, when we played them, Jeremy's team, this past weekend, they beat us handily. Granted, we had subs, but despite all of that, even when it was me on the court, Rivera was on the court, Robbie was on the court, all the games I played with Jeremy, he was arguably the best player on the court. I mean, he was eating up Robbie on the forehand dinking that usually the reason why Robbie and I stack is not because I'm better on backhand than he is or vice versa. It's just when he has that chop slice on the forehand, he'll eat almost everybody up on that, right? And it leads to a pop-up. Jeremy was not faced at all. He was eating him up on the forehand. He was eating me up on the backhand. Jeremy was just like, didn't give a shit who he's coming up against. And he was legitimately the best player on the court every single time I played him that day. And led to a 6-0. I mean, like he played really freaking well.
Yeah.
That being said, Will and I went like 1-5 today on King's Court. Jeremy was our only win, so maybe Jeremy's on the way down. I don't know, but yeah, man, that Friday he was just incredible.
Yeah, he lays low on weekdays. He saves
He's not
his
showing
normal
too much
form for Fridays. Yeah, no, I mean Cobra Kai, like circling back to Jaden, right? Obviously, Jeremy's performance has been really helpful for their team. You're only really as strong as your weakest link, I'd say, and weakest on paper, right? I think there's playing as a 4 and me being one every season to this point, it's a different strategy being essentially you're if you can play better, then your whole team is going to be successful. That can't be said about every single other person. But if if there's no one true area to attack, then you're going to do a lot better. Versus, I think in past seasons, it seemed like there's been some obvious, like target this person. That's the game plan here. And yes, there's still going to be obvious, like weaker players. But I'd say looking across the league right now from when I look at the 4s, I don't see any of them as an easy out this season, which is I feel like a storyline in and of itself. But
well, I think just everybody's game has I mean, when I left in May compared to what it is now, we'll see if my game will come back and either be where it was in May or where it is where you guys are at. But I feel like everybody just has elevated. Like there's not really I don't feel like there's really just 4s in here. Like, yeah, on paper it's a 4 on Duper, but any given day, any given Sunday, Jeremy is playing as a 1. There's other 4s and 3s that have carried their teams. I think what you said about if a 3 or 4 plays above their game, that team's likely going to win. Versus, if the number 1 plays above their game, it doesn't have the same effect because they're expected to get 3.5, 4, 5 wins.
And I think it's across the board. Like I remember years past, you would have like Brent. I go to Brent because I got to draft Brent as a 4 last season. He was a 2 the year before, right?
Yeah,
So the
on
season
my
before,
team.
he got beat up
Yeah.
all the way down to a 4. And then you have other, like, this has happened every single season so far, that somebody who's supposed to be a 1 ends up as a 3, or somebody who's supposed to be a 4 ends up as a 4 the next season. And like, just looking at it, I don't think there's a single 1 that you'd be like, okay, yeah, they're way over the head. There's not a single 2 that has dropped down to the point where you're like, okay, they suck now. And the same thing goes for 3 and 4. So if anything, I think the gap has shrunk, that we're seeing more David
Mhm.
Goliath matchups that are actually being upset, right? Because you don't just have that cakewalk anymore. And I think that's what makes the league the most fun, that any given day, like I said, Jeremy could be the best player on the court. And if he is, then, we're mightily screwed. So yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah,
seriously, it's been so, so good, and just whole level has elevated.
totally. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's interesting to see. I don't know. It's almost like people aren't labeling themselves, right? Like as a 3 or a 4 or
Mhm.
a 2, or like like Chris gets on the court, and I could tell in his mind, like I don't care who I'm playing, like I'm running my game and I'm not backing down. And that I've seen that mindset in a lot of people, like 3s, 4s, sin. Like I'll pat my own guy on the back. Like he's playing, he has multiple games every week where he looks like a 1+, right? Like he's led our team when it comes to just like consistency and wins, which I think is probably a surprise storyline in and of itself, considering how his last season went. So definitely did some soul searching, maybe a paddle upgrade. Shout out to Marlo, but yeah, you see that left and right. You see guys just not afraid to show up, and it's cool. It raises the excitement level. It makes it harder to predict these games and what you expect. You almost like look at whatever team has the most subs is probably going to be the team that loses right now, is
Yeah.
how it seems.
Whoever can
Um,
stay healthy the whole season.
yeah, whoever can, stay
Yeah.
healthy, which is crazy. Abby looks like Abby's not playing again this week. I thought he was going to play, but at least the rosters say that he's not playing and that they're getting
He
Anthony.
should not play. He should take another week for sure.
Yeah. But him and Mac did really well this morning in King's Court. So, I don't know. We'll see. But Anthony's subbed enough. Anthony Rivera subbed enough, or not Rivera. Ramirez has subbed enough that he's becoming a B player on their roster. So that'll probably be relatively smooth. We're playing against them this week, so was hoping to get Abby in there just to
Needle
get
him.
get
To
action
elevate the
there. Yeah,
spiciness.
just to hear some of the yelling. But it sounds like he's camera duty again this week. Is what it's looking like. But anyways, I think a lot of good surprising storylines. Oh, I didn't even finish my thought there, but Jaden, I think, is ultimately the one that's been the biggest surprise for me heading into the season. And I know he showed some signs of it right before the season started, but I don't think anybody in our league would have seen the level of success that he's had so far this season coming in. So to the point where Wade still thinks he could beat him, and I think he'd rock Wade's world when he gets back. But that's just
Oh my
that's
God. Put your money where your mouth
that's
is.
hey. I'll let Jaden's paddle do the speaking for me, but yeah, huge come up, and again, I think every team that's had a lot of success has at least 1 or 2 players on their team that are playing well above their draft slot. So big kudos and shout out to him. Wanted to also just kind of pick your guys' brains when we think about the rest of the season. There's nobody's like locked in. I think usually by this point in the season we'll have some like guaranteed or locks, and maybe there's some locks for the playoffs now. But when it comes to, and maybe it's a new point structure that we're doing that's made things a little bit more like, feels like things can move a lot in every week with the Dream Breaker restructure and points. Is there a team that you guys think is a lock or near lock to end up in the championship match? And I'll do you guys the service of taking your team out of it, right? So like pretend your team doesn't exist, just because I think ultimately everybody here would want to have that confidence. I think both of you guys have reason to have that confidence in your own teams to be there. But outside of yourself, is there a team that you'd say, And I feel like they're a lock to end up, or I'd be surprised if they don't make it all the way.
Not a lock, just because again, like we just talked about, anything can happen,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we talk about Cobra Kai being amazing, but they lost the very first week in a dream breaker to Christian's team that's been, struggling ever since. So, like any given week, anything can happen. I would say based on just the way they've been playing, they have to be the favorite right now, even ahead of Kitchen Crashers, I would say, even though Kitchen Crashers, I guess technically is 1 point up on them. But yeah, I think those two teams have just through the results shown that they're the ones to beat right now. So I would be shocked if not one of them is in the final somehow. Um, but man, I mean, what are we doing? We're doing 3 weeks playoffs, right? So if you don't get a bye, you got to win 3 games to, win the title. If you do get a bye, you get a little bit easier route. So you never know. I mean, as much as I give them crap, like Chris's team obviously has all the, upside in the world. All it takes is for those guys to get matched against one of them, get hot at the right time, and you get, I mean, last season, the top two teams last season after the regular season got bounced in the semis.
Yeah.
Neither one of them made the finals. The 3 and the 4
You don't have to
seed
say it
ones
so
making the
loud, Martin.
finals, right?
You don't have to say it so loud, brother.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna go back to last season and just say that the mighty fell hard last season.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things will be, because my two favorites would be obviously Kitchen Crashers and Rivera's team, but neither team has a lot of league experience, right? Like
Yeah,
they
true.
they both have a lot of both teams have a lot of new people to the league, and so right now they seem to be handling the pressure of the league well, because the league does carry a little bit extra pressure, which you've talked about in some of the earlier things, just your teammates depending on you, different things like that. um, but the playoffs, when it's like we either win or we're done, that's a different level at that point.
Yeah.
It's not just regular season. So my curiosity will be, what do those players do? They get uptight? Do they not hit the shots that they want? Do they, or do they just crush it? I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm excited to be a fly on the wall for some of those games. Hopefully my team's already won and we're just watching the last game, or two go on. But yeah, I think it's literally anyone could be there, I
Yeah.
think.
No, that's a great point. And I think the other thing to highlight is it's going to be the second time that they've played any team that they match up against in the playoffs. Whereas, like, I think this first time through, it's a little bit of a wild card when you're playing a team. How are they going to match up? What do they lean on? Where should we attack? Every single one of us has left a league match and be like, dang it, we should have done X, Y, and Z. Like that was there, and I don't know why we didn't do it, or we attacked it too late, or things like that. So like coming in, it's almost that like that second matchup in the NFL when you're playing a divisional game is like, hey, the first one, might be a little blind. That second one, it's a chess match with, how do we counter what we did in the previous game, or they're going to be expecting this. So it'll be cool to see that component. And to your point, there's two new guys on Cobra Kai to the league, and then there's 3 new guys on Kitchen Crashers to the league. So maybe it goes in there. Maybe the naivety will be a benefit to them of like, yeah, I haven't experienced this, and they'll skate right through. But yeah, that's a good point. As far as just like, it's really hard to call a lock. And I think ideally I'm baiting some conversation here when I ask for a lock, but it does seem like those two have been the most stable.
Yeah, and when my team beats Rivera's team, because we haven't played them yet, and then we went to a tiebreaker and almost beat Joseph's team.
True.
I feel like then I'll be like, we got this. I'll
Yeah.
have the utmost confidence in our 4 guys.
Wait, but
That
you
feels
said you
like-
almost beat Joseph's team, right? You didn't.
We
Is
did.
that
We
what I'm
didn't.
hearing?
We
That-
didn't. But I
that-
feel good about it.
That feels like that year that the Lions were the worst team, but they had beat one team, and then that team had beaten another team that had
Mhm.
beaten the Patriots, and so they were making that.
You know what it feels
Hey,
like?
however
It
you find
feels
your
li-
confidence, find it. Okay.
Here we go.
it feels like the Seahawks not handing the ball to Marshawn on the 1 yard line and saying, we were almost there, but then you weren't, right? Like these things just happen.
Yeah,
Forever written in history.
The Chargers have almost won a lot
hurts.
of games too, so
That
I feel
hurts.
that. I feel
Um,
that for sure.
I'm gonna brush off the errant comment there about beast mode, but I have one similarity with you guys' thoughts, but I have a dark horse thought coming in here.
We love a dark horse.
I think of this as an analogy of football as well. Like usually in the playoffs, the teams that make deep runs have the best quarterbacks, not the best kind of newbies. When I look at Cobra Kai, they got a really strong quarterback in Rivera, and they got a really strong kind of backup in Jaden. He's obviously new to the league. He's not new to pickleball. He's not new to winning. So I think, in terms of a lock, I would be really surprised if they don't make it all the way. Just with how deep they are, and they have a solid quarterback at the helm. My dark pick, which will surprise you, Logan, is Ghost Recon. Going back to Mac being obviously the quarterback of all of this. He's an extremely strong quarterback to rally his team. You guys had some trials and tribulations to start, but you're not out of the mix by any means. You're not even at the bottom. I think Dink Dynasty and Body Baggers are below you. So, and then you got Sin right there as his backup QB. So I would be surprised if Cobra Kai doesn't make it, and I would put everybody on notice to watch out for Ghost Recon as a deep run.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think, I think we're, Martin probably loves it. I think we're sleeping a little bit on Martin, knowing that like if they have a full squad, they've been pretty dominant the weeks that they've had everybody there. So they're sneaking because they've taken a couple L's. Is it one or two that you guys have lost, Martin?
We're 2-2, but yeah,
2-2.
both games we lost. We had multiple subs, and we were like, you guys, Chris beat us like 18-6 or 16-8. Same thing last week, but then both weeks that we had full strength, we won 18-6, right? So like it's crazy, but Drew, just because Drew, like he really is the glue, right? He's the three. But he's the glue because him and Junk play incredibly well together. So all of a sudden you have a 3-4 combo that can beat any 3-4 combo, or even anything outside of that. Him and my game marry each other really, really well, right? And then him and Robbie, like they kind of fire each other up just enough for it to, get it done. So I think Drew really makes that big of a difference. And of course that fucker is out again this week. So I'm gonna have to find another sub. But that's why I'm saying, like for me, I'm like, as long as we make it, and I told my team, I'm like, just find a spot at number 6. That's all I care about. And then if we have full strength, I feel good about it.
Yeah. It goes back to like who can stay healthy, who can not have a bunch of subs, and obviously lifetime pickleball is a force when they're at full strength, but will they be able to ever be full
Who knows?
for
Robbie
like
hasn't slept in yet on a
weeks?
Friday, so like there's that wild card too.
I don't know how to feel about Robbie not sleeping in on a Friday though. Like he's like, oh, I'm not gonna sleep in on Friday, but some of these other days, like
Monday, Wednesday,
not as high up on the priority list.
Yeah, I think when I look through the teams, and we were talking about this morning, Martin, like I really think it's going to be get to the playoffs and then the season starts again. I'm not a huge believer that bye weeks are super beneficial. It's helpful to stay competing. It's not like we don't play a physical sport. Like there's not a recovery period that's involved. I think the only advantage is that you dodge potentially somebody that could beat you, because anybody could beat you every week, right? So you increase your chances and make it all the way. But I like competing every week. And
I think the bye week was mainly just because it was like a school holiday or something, right? And we had so many people that were just going to be gone that it was going to be half the league was subbing, and we just said, let's just get that one off the schedule.
Totally. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how people occupy themselves and stay game ready during that time. But I know we're close on time here. We've a lot of good discussion here, but want to finish off with just some quick picks. We'll go around the horn and pick this week's games, and I'll pull them up here and just get everybody's takes. But there's been a lot of discussion about freaking Cobra Kai and Kitchen Crashers, and they play each other this week. So We will save that pick for last, just because I think that's pretty clearly the game of the week. But let's go around the horn and pick Deck the Balls versus Lifetime Pickle. Deck the Balls has John, Brad, Preston, Kuhn. They're full strength this week.
No,
They've
Josh
had
is subbing in for Brad actually.
Who is?
Josh Davis, the silent
Okay, so yeah,
silent
they've had
assassin.
him sub in a few times. Shout out or maybe a hand slap to John for not having his roster updated, or maybe that's on Mac, but I'll cover for Mac. John, Josh, Preston, and Kuhn. Preston's going to be playing the 2 as my guess then, and they've had Josh play the 3 in that situation versus you, Martin, Robbie, TJ, who I believe subbed last week, right? As well. And then Junk is back from the Iowa trip with Chris. So we'll start out. I'll pick first here. I'm gonna go Lifetime gets a bounce back here. I don't know TJ very well, so both teams having subs. I think the subs have been somewhat of a wash here, but I think Lifetime gets back in the mix and find some opportunities to pick on potential weaknesses. But I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, I'm gonna refrain from picking, but yeah, TJ started slow last week because first time playing, and he just like many newbies to league saw all the glamour going on, matching jerseys, and he got so nervous. And after like our first game together, I was like, dude, just play a game. Like, don't sweat it. If we go down swinging, that's fine. And I think he won 2 of his last 3. So I mean, he started out slow, but yeah, he found the rhythm a little bit, and that's the first time league. That was another thing. We had 2 combinations that have played together last week, and that was Robbie and me, and like me and Junk, by all intents and purposes. Everything else was a new matchup for us, so it was like completely different. So now having a little bit of continuity will be good.
Yeah, it'll be a good game.
I'm gonna go ahead and pick Lifetime because I spent a lot of time with Junk this weekend that we were both gone. I know that both of us want to come into this Friday just in we are desperate to outperform this Friday, both me and him. So I'm seeing Junk go 5-1 this Friday.
That would be helpful.
And I think that Lifetime is going to take it. Now, could John and Preston then play lights out and save it? Maybe. But I think that between Martin and Junk, that they're going to be able to hold it together and come out with a win. And then one small point on like these subs coming in and being nervous that first week and stuff. I think one of the reasons that they're struggling is you have to remember when you come in as a sub and you see all the lights and all the camera, every court's getting filmed and all the matching jerseys and stuff. You gotta remember, none of us are getting paid for this. Okay. You could lose 6 straight games. Your life's not going to change in any meaningful way. You have to go in and play the game that you were picked to be the sub to play. If you go in and play a different game and be uptight because you're all nervous, that's not the game that they picked you to come sub. You know, they picked you based on the skill set that you normally have. You got to go in and play that game. You got to be confident in playing the way that they saw you before.
Yeah.
Wait, Adam isn't paying you guys?
That's my question. I didn't realize he was keeping the money for himself. Maybe that's what's wrong.
You guys are getting paid?
We figured it out. No, but that's a great shout to the subs. And I think it's a good reminder for all of us that can maybe put too much pressure on ourselves, in these scenarios on these Fridays. So
been there, done that,
Yeah.
you know.
We won't talk about Wade's first.
Yeah, I did live 3 of those games were like 13-11. I'll never forget. But I think it's like it's earning your stripes as a sub. You go 1-5 or 0-6, and then you go from there. As much as I would love to pick against Lifetime, I can't in this matchup. I think Martin and Robbie are too strong for John, and I think it's going to be a sub.
Preston's the 2.
Preston's going to be the 2. I just think it's too much firepower. I'm going with Lifetime as much as I want to pick against you.
John and Preston, I'll note too, this morning, John and Preston played really well. Like Sin and I paired, and we had a day, like we were blowing teams out left and right, and they smacked us both times. So We'll see if that carries over, but I don't think it would be surprising to anybody if John and Preston show up
Yeah.
and play lights
No.
out. So
Wouldn't
I think
be a
it's
surprise.
I think honestly it's going to be more about how the 3-4s pair against each other in that matchup, just because I think the 1-2 is pretty comparable there.
Agreed. Both of us have subs as 3, and a lot of times that makes a difference. One sub goes, 1 and 5, the other one even goes 3 and 3 from the 3 slot. That makes a difference.
Totally. Next game here that we'll be picking, MPGA Dink Dynasty. MPGA, or let's see, we've got subs on both teams. MPGA is Adam, Chris, obviously, Ronan's jumping in for the first time, and Craig. And then we've got Dink Dynasty. That'll be Christian, Brian playing again in the 2, David playing up into the 3, and then Andrew Nguyen, who maybe some of you have played with him. Pretty strong player, doesn't play with us very much,
Lefty.
especially since we moved to Pickler, but kind of a wild card, especially placing him in the 4. I think it opens up some interesting possibilities there for them, but curious to see how Brian bounces back. I know he was coming off a work trip last week, traveling the whole week, got back on Thursday, and then had to basically red eye and hop up and play again, and that was impactful. And I know he's traveling again this week. So what Brian are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that's been playing above his draft slot early in the season, or maybe one that's struggling from a little bit of travel? So hopefully he's getting some sleep there, and we get the peak Brian. But yeah, Ronan, I haven't played much with Ronan. I hung out with him at Junk's house that one time, but
he's a lifetime OG.
Lifetime
I met him
OG.
first time at Lifetime, played with him. That's all he plays. And to this day, the quickest guy I've ever met on the court. Like, he gets to every ball insanely fast. He used to be a semi-professional soccer goalie, so reactions on point. Downside is I hear he hasn't picked up a paddle in like 6 months. So that's gonna be the question mark. But dude is quick, dude gets to everything, and dude is super solid. Like, he's another one of those guys who's never gonna lose it for you. But the question is, how has that been for the last 6 months where he's just been golfing,
Sure.
Yeah,
Who was that? Ronan?
Yeah, that's Ronan. He is very scrappy. He gets everything back, and he doesn't pop up a lot of stuff. So this is my prediction. It is my team, but I think a lot of it's going to depend on how dominant Christian is this week. I feel like when he's on, he can carry an entire team to victory just by himself.
Yeah.
But Adam has been on the struggle bus a little bit, and I foresee a really good week for Adam this week. It's very uncommon that people of that caliber play poorly, 2-3 weeks in a row. Your team, Logan, you guys were on the struggle, but then you've turned it around. Normally, a player can do the same thing. So I think Adam's going to come out really strong. And I think Ronan will be able to hold his own until an opportunity presents itself for me, Adam, or Craig to put away a ball. And so I'm confident in our team.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of play style that Ronan has lends itself to taking more time off, right? If somebody like Ankit, who's just all firepower, all fast, all 100%, I think somebody like that taking time off is just going to see balls flying wildly out, net, just being all over the place. Whereas somebody who's just consistent and that's their game and not messing up, I think that suits you well for taking time off if you have to bet on somebody. So I would go with you guys as well. I think you guys are going to win it if Ronan can hold his part.
Yeah. I'm gonna jump in here too and let Wade make his quick pick here, because I know he's got to bounce and leave us here. But who you got in this one, Wade?
Yeah, we're all in too much agreement here. I think Adam's gonna have a bounce back. MPGA will take it down. I watched the live stream last week on the highlight court, and I watched Christian just get down on himself a little too much. So hopefully he can get in a better headspace. But I think if he comes out with the first couple losses, I think it's a slippery slope, kind of like his Buffalo Bills.
I don't think he's worried about the Bills right now, but yeah.
And then I'll get in my picks real quick because I do got to jump.
Yeah, make your quick picks and we'll talk about
Ghost Recon and Body Baggers. Ghost Recon, I'm not going to deviate from my dark horse prediction to watch out for. I think they're on their way up. So Ghost Recon's going to take down Body Baggers, and then the matchup of the week: Cobra Kai versus Kitchen Crashers. I think this is the week that the undefeated becomes defeated, and Cobra Kai will take down Kitchen Crashers in a close one for sure.
Yeah.
So
Respect.
pleasure, boys. I will see you soon, and best of luck.
Appreciate you, Wade.
Bye.
Yeah, I'll make my quick pick here on your match, Chris. I think this is probably one of the harder ones that I've had to pick just because of the variability here between kind of performances. I believe you in coming back fired up and ready to go, and I think your skill set, and I've told you this before, I think your skill set offers something that's tough to prepare for, just the movement that you put on the ball. So no amount of reps, I think, prepare somebody like an Andrew who, right, I don't know how much he's played against you or you've played with him. I think it's going to create some momentum for you guys. If Adam comes out fired up, which, I believe he will too, I'm not thinking that Christian and Brian and David will lay down. They were all very solid. All three of them like had some very solid moments, especially David's like kind of picking it up and finding his stroke a little bit. But I think that just from a motivation perspective and a fire ready to go, I think Brian's question mark. I believe in Brian, want Brian to succeed for sure. That's my boy. But I think it's tough to travel all week, sleep in a hotel, and come back and just have your A game. So hoping he does. But I think that there are a couple question marks here that just lean in the favor of MPGA here. So don't hate me, boys, on the Dink Dynasty squad. So I think if Mark was healthy and playing, I think it'd be more of a conversation here for sure. So jumping over to that next match, mine, Ghost Recon Body Baggers. Love to get your guys' thoughts. Just some background on our side. We do have a sub. Zach is subbing for EY. And Zach's going to play the 3, Sin's going to play the 2. So I didn't share that up front, but Zach is going to play Zach Lagan. So not a stranger to Junkyard, but we haven't played with him in a while. Know he's got some game, but we feel pretty comfortable with Sin playing as a 2. He's played to that level. So if Zach can come in, as a competitive 3, I think, I don't think we'll have a ton of drop off here from, our full strength team. So, and then Ankit, really interesting wrinkle is Kyle is playing their 2 spot this week. Kyle Allen. So he's going from 4 to 2. And then Anthony Ramirez is subbing in the 3. And then Steve is playing their 4. So I'm not sure if this is like a strategic move to try to like line certain things up or getting certain, head to heads, but that's what they're running with this week. And Abi is obviously out this week. So
it'll be interesting to see how Steve and Zach match up against each other. Obviously, them being good friends. It'll be I guess they'll only play twice or against each other, 3 times.
They'll play against you. You play against everybody 3 times in this
3
league.
times.
So
okay,
regardless of what position you're, it just kind of changes who you're pairing with, right? If you're in an underdog or heads up match or favorite.
So hopefully Zach, doesn't just hand those games to Steve. No, I'm just kidding. But they're fun to watch play against each other because they just know each other so well.
Yeah.
So that'll be that. I don't feel like Zach is as big of a disadvantage as a sub as other subs have been because he's gonna know Steve so well, and he's played in Junkyard a lot as opposed to some of these other subs like Ronan, where he's never played in Junkyard, like the. So I think you guys, with your momentum and the strength of that sub, I think that you guys would be my pick for sure this week.
Yeah, I actually, so far we're in all in agreement. I agree with you. I think it's going to be you guys. The one thing I'll say is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like EY has been the most inconsistent of the group. Like EY again has the highest ceiling of any 2 maybe out there. But I feel like every time I look at the results, somehow EY is at 1 or 2 wins, right? Whereas the floor should be a 3 win for number 2 realistically. So I think taking that out doesn't really matter who's coming in as long as they're somewhat the same level. So I think you guys are going to do well. But some insight to the Kyle to the two. I've talked to Ankit about this before because I don't think Kyle has ever been the reason why they're struggling as much as they do. Like Kyle's
Yeah.
been playing really well from what I've seen, including not last week, the week before, where we beat them handily. It was like 18-6, I think. I went 5-1. The one loss I had was Ankit and Kyle beating us 11-1. I think it was me and Junk. And my Dupa went down that day. Even though I went 5
Yeah.
and 1, my Dupa went down because of that one game. And we couldn't do anything. I mean, Ankit was on, Kyle was on, and I think those two play really well together. So I think Ankit wants to, number one, he's lost David Goliath twice already. He's like, okay, I don't want to do that. So me and Kyle aren't going to lose that. Plus, they have a really good chance of winning the 1-2 matchup that might matter at the very end because of how well they've been playing together. So I thought he might bump him to the 3 or something, but I like that move. Just switch it up, see what happens, and then obviously freaking Steve is as good as any 4 there is. Um,
Yeah.
if his drives are on. So I actually like the move. I would have thought Steve stays to the 3 and Anthony down to the 4, but again, I don't play with Anthony all that much. So I think it's a little bit of just switching things up, see what happens. Kind of like you do with stacking, right? We might
Yeah.
be playing straight up. You get stuck on one side. You're like, we normally don't do it. Let's just stack for this one, see what happens. So I actually like it. And because of that, even though I think you guys are going to win, I think it's going to be closer than most of their games have been because, I mean, they've been blown out for most of them. But I think this is going to be a competitive one front to back.
Yeah, it'll be. I think how what like Zach we get will carry a lot of weight into how this one goes. Personally, like, are we getting the Zach that's competed at a pretty high level from day to day and in the past, or I don't know how much he's been playing recently. I'm sure he's been playing, but I just don't know what that's looked like. So,
You
if
have
he,
Zach against Steve and Anthony in the last matchup as well, right? To
yeah,
potentially for all the marbles.
yeah. So and it's been Sin and I in every single one, and we've won every last match like pretty easily. Like we've blown out every final match that we've paired together. So I was a little sad to break up the gang as far as our 3-4 finish, but excited to play with Zach. And I think, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a good matchup. Ankit also told me that like his best record is on the team as far as who he's won the most games with is Kyle for sure.
That's
So,
what I'm saying. Yeah, they have a good chemistry.
playing a strong game, and then they'll be playing against Mac and Sin playing together. I think Mac's games kind of like hit a turn lately too, where he's finding his stride again. Not that he's ever fallen off, but I think everybody's seen a Mac that's on, and it's not fun to play against, right? And then Mac that's maybe a little bit more mortal, where he's maybe hitting the same shots at a lower clip, is definitely easier to match up against. So I know I watched you and Chris, you and Mac play together this week in that game was that on Monday where you guys were playing Ankit and John, or no, Ankit and Rivera, or maybe that was last week. I don't know. But you guys were both playing reindeer games and hitting some pretty crazy shots. So if we can get that Mac and you guys have that Chris, then I think it definitely helps the squad out. So I obviously won't pick it, but I think and I'm not just saying this, I think it'll be a pretty good matchup. Ankit when his drives on is always going to be tough to deal with. Last one, and we'll make it relatively quick here because I know we're going long, but Cobra Kai, Kitchen Crashers. I'll start us off on picks here. I'm going to go. I kind of have gone back and forth in my head a few times, but I'm going to go with Cobra Kai, and it's against my kind of intuition here. But I think the reason that I'm going to go with Cobra Kai is specifically because I think that they play a patient game. And I think the trouble that teams get into with Kitchen Crashers is they aren't patient. And Kitchen Crashers makes them pay for it, and they're willing to play patient. So I think Cobra Kai playing a similar style of game, I think that the top end on Cobra Kai is slightly higher than the top end on Kitchen Crashers. Obviously I could easily see it going the other way, but I'm leaning Cobra Kai just based off of the matchups in this one.
I'm gonna go Kitchen Crasher solely because I think number one, it's gonna go do a Dream Breaker because of how tight it is. But number
Yes.
two, it deserves it. It would just be a good storyline for the
Yeah.
1-2 matchup to go to a Dreambreaker. And honestly, if I have to go across the board, I think Kitchen Crashers is the better. Like, as great as Jeremy has been playing, he's not a singles player.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
he's just not. I remember when he subbed for me, like, or maybe he was on the team 2 years ago. We played a Dreambreaker, and he would play like it's doubles. He would return and stay on his side, and I kept saying, "Jeremy, go towards the middle. You're playing the whole court." So, I mean, obviously Tony, he's a solid, singles player. I mean, you saw Trevor like just flying around the court.
Nasty.
I mean, Joseph, he can with his stupid like where he aims this way and then he goes that way. So I think they're just across the board the better singles team. And because of that, because I think it's going to be tight enough that it's going to go to Dreambreaker, that's what I'm going to go with. Kitchen Crashers takes this one.
Yeah, Jaden's definitely not the singles player either that he is as a doubles player. And I would probably back that. If it does go to Dreambreaker, I think I'd flip my pick there. So
Yeah,
Chris.
we have. I had front row experience to them in singles because we lost to them in a Dreambreaker, and that was exactly what I was gonna say. Martin, is I'm foreseeing this go tied the entire time. They're gonna split all 6 rounds somehow, and then Kitchen Crashers is going to win in the Dreambreaker by 10 points.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think it's 10 points,
dominate
but I agree. I think
in
it's going to be like a
yeah,
21-12, 21-14,
yeah,
like not one
yeah.
that goes down to like the last
No,
rotation mattering,
yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think I could see that too if it goes to Dreambreaker. I think that on paper, I think that Cobra Kai's got a sneaky matchup advantage that hasn't existed in their previous.
By the way, have these been the two teams that have been without subs all season as well?
Yeah,
Because I can't think of a single sub for Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I don't think
I can't think of a sub for Kitchen Crashers either. So I think they've just been, which goes to show again. I mean, we've talked about this before. Like, subs have been awful. Like, subs have been 0-6 or 1-5 outside of Brent coming in that one day, who obviously he's, as much of a part of the group as anybody that will ever sub. So like low key, maybe that's part of it. Maybe when MPGA is at full strength, like it freaking doesn't matter and they crush everybody, right? I'd like to think obviously when we're in full strength, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I think both of them have been at full strength the entire way, but this is going to be a matchup to watch. I'm certainly going to peek over there in between matches. And yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah. We'll have to definitely get the game film out and watch some of those matchups there. But appreciate both of you guys hopping on today. I know we went pretty long here, but a lot of good content. So always love your thoughts. You guys are both deep thinkers, good competitors. So I think we're in for a fun week on Friday and fun pairings and matchups, and excited to see how all of our picks pan out. There's not going to be that much to talk about as far as I think we're unanimous across the board as far as picks outside of maybe just this last one, right? Is it going to be me or
well, actually, I think
you know
Chris
what?
and I, we both said,
with,
we split. Wade was on your side. Chris
Wade
and I
was
were
with,
out.
yeah. So it'll be, yeah. And I do know that Rivera sits and waits at his phone until this episode drops to see who picks him, who's riding with him. And he's probably got a victory beer in the fridge waiting.
I just want to say, I love Rivera. I think he can totally, if he comes prepared, he can totally do it. He would be the one caveat. He'll win his 4 games or 4 points in singles. Like I'm not taking anything away from him, but as a team, I just saw drives just freaking flying past every single corner. They must have hit 10 lines, striped edge lines on us. They're winning singles. It's just happening. Rivera, you better not let it go to a tiebreaker. That's Rivera's all I have to say.
Rivera's already turned this thing off. He wrote down his notes and he turned this thing off. But awesome. Thanks, boys. I appreciate y'all. Good luck this week. Hopefully we all pull out dubs and come back on victorious here. So
let's do it.
Let's play well and have a great rest of your day, boys.
Yes, sir.
Bye.